Before a big game, Michael Jordan wore his University of North Carolina shorts under his Chicago Bulls uniform. Every game. For his entire career. He knew it made no logical difference. He did it anyway. Rafael Nadal arranges his water bottles in the exact same pattern before every match. Serena Williams bounces a ball exactly 5 times before her first serve and twice before her second. Wade Boggs, one of the greatest hitters in baseball history, ate chicken before every single game for nearly 2 decades. These are not confused people. These are some of the most disciplined, high-performing athletes who have ever lived. And they all do something that, by any rational standard, should do absolutely nothing. But here's the strange part. It works, not because the socks control the outcome, not because the water bottles matter, but because something happens inside the brain when a human performs a ritual before a high-stakes moment. Something real, something measurable. And that effect is ancient, far older than basketball, far older than professional sport, far older than any civilization that invented a word for what these athletes are doing. Because what Michael Jordan was doing in that locker room 50,000 years ago, your ancestor was doing beside a fire before a hunt. Different costumes, different stakes, identical brain, and somewhere between that prehistoric fire and the first temple ever built, the same mechanism that made the ritual feel necessary also made gods feel real. This is where religion came from. Not from revelation, from this. To understand how that happened, you have to understand what the human brain actually does under uncertainty. Uncertainty is painful, not metaphorically, neurologically. When the outcome of a situation is unknown and matters enormously, the brain enters a state of heightened threat monitoring. The prefrontal cortex, which handles planning and rational thought, starts losing ground to the amygdala, which handles fear. Stress hormones rise. Attention narrows. The body prepares for a threat it cannot locate. This is not useful. A surgeon whose hands are shaking from anxiety is worse at surgery. A hunter whose mind is racing with worst-case scenarios misses the shot. A warrior frozen by fear of what might happen does not come home. So the brain developed a workaround, repeated patterned behavior under threat conditions. It does not matter what the behavior is. What matters is that it is structured, repeatable, and performed with intention. The brain interprets this pattern as control, and perceived control over an uncontrollable situation turns down the threat response. Stress hormones drop. The prefrontal cortex comes back online. Performance improves. But here is the important part. The brain never required the ritual to actually work on the world. It only required the ritual to work on the brain. And that is a completely different standard. Now here is where things get complicated. The ritual reduces anxiety. That is the mechanism. But the brain also needs a story. Humans are story-building machines. The mind does not just want to feel more in control. It wants to understand why the control worked. A hunter performs a ritual before the chase. The hunt succeeds. The brain immediately connects those two events. Not maybe. Automatically. This is called illusory correlation, the tendency to link unrelated events because they occurred together. Every brain does this. It is not a failure of intelligence. It is a feature of pattern recognition. Pattern recognition kept your ancestors alive. If you noticed that lions appeared near the riverbank at dusk, and you avoided the riverbank at dusk, you survived. The brain that found patterns, even imperfect ones, outperformed the brain that required certainty. False positives were cheap. False negatives were fatal. So the brain evolved to connect things, aggressively, even things that have no actual relationship. The ritual before the hunt, the successful outcome. The brain files those together. Repeat the ritual next time. It works again. Or it works enough. Over generations, the ritual becomes required. Skip it, and something feels wrong. Something feels incomplete. Something feels like you have broken a rule you cannot fully name. That feeling has a name in cognitive science. It is called magical thinking. And it is not a malfunction. It is the exact same pattern detection system that noticed lions at the riverbank, applied to situations where the pattern is invisible. The same feature, different target. This sounds like philosophy. It isn't. Psychologist Lysan Damisch at the University of Cologne ran a set of experiments where participants were told their golf ball was lucky before putting. That single sentence improved their performance by 35% compared to participants who were told nothing. 35%. From 4 words. Her follow-up research found the effect was mediated by increased confidence and persistence. The lucky ball did not change the physics of putting. It changed what the brain believed about its own ability. And that changed everything. Here is the same brain feature operating in an ancient hunting camp, scaled across 1,000 generations. The ritual works. The brain notices. The group shares the ritual. The ritual becomes collective. And now something new has happened that was not present before. The ritual is no longer just a private performance. It is a shared behavior that binds the group together before a high-risk moment, which means it now does two things. It calms the individual brain, and it synchronizes the group. A group that performs the same behavior together, at the same time, with the same intention, starts to function differently. Anthropologist Harvey Whitehouse found that synchronized ritual raises pain thresholds, increases trust between participants, and creates what he calls identity fusion, the feeling that the boundary between self and group has dissolved. You stop being a frightened individual, you become part of something larger. That feeling is extraordinarily powerful, and it is addictive in the most literal neurological sense. The brain did not develop ritual to create religion. It developed ritual to manage uncertainty and coordinate groups. Religion was the story built around why the ritual worked. Think about what that actually means. Every religion on earth has sacred ritual at its center. Prayer, sacrifice, ceremony, pilgrimage, fasting. The form changes. The function does not. The function is always the same. Reduce individual anxiety, synchronize the group, perform the behavior that worked before. And once a group agrees that a ritual works, something else becomes necessary. An explanation for why. The brain will not accept we do this because it reduces stress hormones. The brain wants an agent, something with intentions, something that responds to the ritual, something that can be pleased, angered, or appeased. The ritual requires a god, not because the god came first, because the ritual needed somewhere to point. Gods were the explanation. The ritual was the product, and the product was built by a brain that simply could not survive high-stakes uncertainty without doing something patterned and intentional first. No one designed this, it emerged. The next time you wear your lucky shirt, tap the door frame before leaving the house, or feel a quiet pull of wrongness when you forget your usual routine before something that matters, that is not irrationality. That is a 50,000-year-old anxiety management system running exactly as it was built to run. The same system that eventually needed a name for what it was responding to. You still have it. It never turned off. And somewhere, in every church, mosque, and temple ever built, that system is still doing exactly what it learned to do in the dark beside a prehistoric fire. Managing the unbearable feeling that the outcome is not in your hands.